We're back with some Amphibia. I mean, well, yeah, because we're not in Amphibia, technically speaking, because, we're on Earth, and, I just wrote the thing. How is everyone doing today, guys? My name's T-Codes, and I'll say this isn't as long as a hiatus as Avatar or Steven Universe. We're back with the third and final season in Amphibia, and this is one way to kick off the final season. So this is episode 41, The New Normal, which is good title for this episode, because it's like, it's after everything that has happened leading up to this point, things definitely are intriguing. So I'll admit, again, I guess it's like, it's kind of like with the Owl House right now. It's like, you think you know what's gonna happen, and then they kind of throw a curveball at you. And so, a few things happened in this episode that I didn't think would happen until later. But I guess that kind of makes sense in this situation, because there's a lot of things that happen that you could argue could have worked in like an about 11-minute segment, but they kind of just sandwiched it together. And I liked it. I mean, it makes sense because this whole thing kind of does happen within one whole story. So, so let's just get into this episode. So, we pretty much pick up right where we left off from True Colors, where Anne and the Plantars were just on that car hood, and so, Hop Pop is looking up and seeing he looked up and saw the airplane. What was Sprig looking at? I forgot what Sprig was looking at. And Polly was looking at one of the wacky inflatable things. So it was really funny. But obviously with them being on the highway, they quickly get off, and they then look off to the city, which is Los Angeles or California, LA, Hollywood. Nah, not Hollywood. Basically, like a pretty big city for the Plantars to be stuck in. So this isn't like Gravity Falls, where they could have easily have blended in. Like, this is not. But obviously, with the Plantars, this is a whole new world for them, but for Anne, this is her home. And I love how she's like, okay, there's only one way to be sure I'm back. She whips out her phone, and she just sees the top of her phone say go from no service to full on 5G. Yeah. It is. I definitely liked her reaction to that, and I love how more and more like over the top it's getting with its visuals, like just seeing like the bright colors just erupt from her phone, just like, and you just see Anne's face. She's just so happy to see her. She actually has cell service now. It's amazing. It's hilarious, and I love it. But so obviously she's back home. But of course, she has a few problems, as she lists out in this episode. She has, obviously, with the Plantars stuck in Earth, Marcy and Sasha still stuck in Amphibia, Marcy's betrayal, Sasha's betrayal, Marcy getting stabbed, her glowing blue powers that Sprig for a second was like, wait, what? Because he didn't see that, because he was falling to his presumed death in the last episode. Yeah, she has a lot on her plate. But of course, as she states, the first things first is she has to go home. And that's exactly what she does. She goes right back to her home and reunites with her parents, and it's it's what you would expect. It's a little quick, not holding that against like Matt or the team. I mean, again, it's a 22-minute episode, so you gotta do a lot. So what they had for this reunion was it was very it was good. I mean, you felt it. You really felt it. Because Anne just goes up to her front door, like, they have a shot of her feet, approaching the door. Then you have a shot of her from the side. She's breathe. She just takes a deep breath, knocks on the door, and you see the inside of her house. You see the photos of her family. You see her mom. She's cooking. She's mixing something in a bowl, and then she hears the door. She walks over, opens the door, sees Anne, and just like at first, she's looking down in a little bit of fear, and then she looks up, just waves and says, "Hi, Mom." And then, of course, her mom drops the bowl, hugs her. Her dad, hears the bowl drop, wonders what's going on, sees Anne and her mom. The three embrace, and then Domino the cat walks in. It's touching. It's really touching, and I'm so glad I didn't see the sneak peek of this prior, because I was like, want to try and go into this with as little of spoilers as possible. So, man, you feel it here. But yeah, it's cool. So Anne is obviously just happy to be back with her parents, and of course her parents are so relieved and so happy that she's home. But of course there's one problem. So I'll say this: when I saw Anne telling the Plantars to hide in the recycling bin in the garbage can, I thought it was gonna go one way, and that being like the garbage truck would show up and just dump them in, and then part of the episode would be trying to get them back, and maybe her parents, she's like, "We gotta follow that garbage truck," and her parents are like, "Why?" And it's like, well, I thought that would be the episode, but nope, they surprise you with Hop Pump. So when Anne was hiding him in the garbage cans, she said, "I'll make a bird noise to signal for you guys to come out." And so, funny enough, an actual bird flies by, makes a noise, so Hop Pop misinterprets that as the signal, comes out of the garbage can, and he's like, "And where are the Plantars? The loving family Anne's told you all about." And I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, I think her parents gave the correct response there, being her dad passes out. It's definitely funny, and I'm glad the Band-Aid was kind of ripped off rather quickly on that, being okay, maybe not try and hide the fact that you're hiding 3 amphibian creatures here. So, yeah, obviously a lot has happened, which is understandable, but at the same time, it's also intriguing. But yeah, so Anne has to, of course, kind of explain what has happened in the last 5 months that they have now confirmed, which is, yeah, I think, let's see. I think they said, okay, so I think they said it took 3 months for season 1. And then, let's see, it said it's about 2-week journey to Newtopia. So there's another month, 2-week trip to Newtopia, and then there's another month, and then there's another 2 weeks to get back from Newtopia, and obviously have everything that happened in between. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Okay, so, yeah, sorry, So, but obviously one thing that Anne wants to try and do is ease them into the whole situation, but unfortunately with the Plantars jumping in, she can't do that just yet. So, yeah, this is interesting. But yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna say it. I am really tired. I'm really tired. Where I am right now, these episodes air at 8:30 in the morning, and after a very long week of school, you kind of hope to sleep in, but you get what you get. So, okay, so yeah, so Anne kind of gives them a little recap of what's happened so far, and by recap we only see the third temple talk, which is just pretty much her saying, well, we charged all the stones, we opened the box, and we came back, but the plantars also came back. So the one thing I don't know if they mentioned or not was the fact that Marcy and Sasha? Okay, sorry about that cut. Had to take something real quick. Plus, decided to take a shot of caffeine. Not a coffee guy. Didn't realize some people drink coffee from a young age, as Anne mentions in this episode. But all right, so anyway, after the recap, which is basically Anne just saying like 3 gems were charged up, open the box, plantars got stuck here with me. So yeah, we get a little meta joke with Anne's dad being like, whoa, hang on, you're telling me there's an entire world of talking frogs called Amphibia? So for those who don't know, Amphibia was the original title for the show, or at least one of the original titles for the show before they changed it to Amphibia. Yeah, it kind of makes sense because, I mean, Amphibia doesn't really roll off the tongue as well as Amphibia, yeah, so, that's what Anne's dad says. Anne's mom says, I needed to, like, do a double retake on what she said, because I thought she said one thing, and then but really she said the other thing. So, she said, you made larb with maggots? And I'm guessing that's kind of a dish. I haven't gone to check. Again, I really don't have that much time to do this stuff, so for those who know what larb is, just let me know down in the comments what exactly it is. I'll see how. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get to try it. I have no idea at this point in my life. So, yeah. So, basically, yeah. So, that's kind of what they take out of this. And then Anne's like, so, can the plantars stay here while we try and figure out all this stuff out? And, of course, Anne's mom kind of laughs it off at first, being like, yeah, that's a funny joke. But then she's like, oh, wait, you're serious? And before I get too deep into this episode, I want to quickly talk about Anne's parents, more like her mom, and that's because Matt Browley, his mother, actually voices Anne's mom in this case, and she's all right. I mean, I'm not saying she's terrible. I'm not saying she's great though. Like, she has a few lines that sound a little off, but then she gets some really good lines too. Like, later on when they go to the supermarket, there's this rock and roll. I don't think was it rock and roll. It was like this song playing over the intercoms at the supermarket, and then all of a sudden Anne's mom's like, "Oh, I love this song," and you see this song go like this. I'm like, that was funny. I gotta give. I mean, parents can surprise you sometimes. So, all right. So back to the little recap. So, Anne, yeah, like I said, Anne asked if the plantars could stay. At first, the parents were like, well, shouldn't we try and just go to the authorities about this? Try and help them maybe they can help. And, of course, freaks the heck out because pretty much like any show, TV, movie, anything that involves the supernatural, the government is the last thing you want there. And so Anne, of course, is like, no, they can be dissected or pruned. And then Hop Up's like, can you elaborate the term pruned? So, or probed. Yeah, why did I say prune? Loki on my mind for some odd reason. Yeah, so the parents at first, they're like, okay, well, we'll let them stay, you know, a trial run, but they're not allowed to leave the house. And then we get either the most ballsy, ballsy social commentary joke. I wouldn't say social commentary. It's like, okay, there's a quarantine song in this. Like, there's a little segment where they're in quarantine. I don't know when they wrote this episode. If it was before 2020, talk about a freaking lucky guess. If they wrote this during or after 2020, you guys are gutsy. But it's a nice little bit of what the Plantars do in the human world or at the house, and do a lot of interesting things. So Sprig sees the microwave, and let's see, he throws a book and shoe and almost her phone in there. So there's that. Polly gets along with Domino the cat and actually starts writing it at one point, which was actually really funny. And then you have there's a scene where Anne's father goes into the bathroom, but Sprig and Hop Hop are in the bathtub, which is full and overflowing, and then Polly's in the toilet. Yes, that is a thing. But it's not just that going around. Anne is a little on edge with their parents because their parents are so, like, kind of like being helicopter parents. But at the same time, that's completely understandable because, as they pointed out, it's like, well, last time we let you alone for a few hours, you were teleported to another world for 5 months. It's like, yeah, that's something you kind of just don't really get back into the groove after following. I mean, it is understandable why her parents are so protective of her, especially with the Plantars here too. So it's like, it makes sense, but for Anne, you know, her being still a kid, she kind of has that annoying, like, talk of like, oh, can't you just leave me alone for like 5 minutes or something? And then, of course, her dad's like, it's a pretty big house. It's like, yeah, it kind of is. But granted, at the same time, I lived in the house. I have 3 older brothers and my parents, so we have a pretty big house, a decent-sized house, too. Trust me, there are days where it feels like you can't go anywhere without running into one of them. So, yeah. So, and wants kind of like both her and the Plantars to have a little bit of freedom, go outside, have some fun, and yeah, so at first, you know, the parents aren't on board with that, you know, like, even Anne's like, well, we can just go to the supermarket with you, you know, we'll just be there with you guys, and then we'll just come back, alright? And at first, it's like, yeah, her parents are skeptical, I mean, but then Hop Pop kind of vouches for her, you know, I say vouches, like, you kind of understand what he's trying to do, but he doesn't do it entirely great, because he, like, also points out, like, sure, did she set the town on fire? Yeah. Did she nearly get us eaten by some monsters? Multiple times, yes, but, so, but her parents, yeah, but Anne's parents understand what Hop Hop was trying to say. Plus, they also noticed that Anne, since she's gotten back, has definitely acted more mature than what she was 5 months prior. And again, it makes sense because it's like, after the journey you've had with Anne, you kind of would grow up a little bit too. You would be traumatized, but you would grow up a little bit too. So, our parents agreed to take the Plantars with her to the supermarket. And it's like, cool. Now what? We cut back to Newtopia. We have the city is being Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild 2, sky up in the sky. I don't know. Is it Breath of the Wild 2? I don't know. It's Legend of Zelda. You got the city in the sky. You got the storm. You got the yellow lightning. You got robots everywhere. You have Andrias who's there, and he's acting sinister. And so here's the one thing: I didn't think we would get the Terminator or Frog and Terminator in this episode, I thought at least we would end it with that. Being like, ooh, they're coming, it's coming. I mean, yeah, I was kind of thinking that's what's gonna come in this episode. I didn't think it would actually come in the middle of the episode, because then that means you kind of know where the second half of the episode's gonna go. So that kind of caught me off guard. And so, yeah, Andrias pretty much does that. He sends the Terminator to the human world to hunt down Anne. And so how does the Terminator figure out where Anne is? He just reads the signature off the blue gem and just, like, goes to the human world and is like, all right, wherever that energy, looks for that energy. That's how he's going to find it. That's how it's going to find Anne. That's exactly what it does. And, it also has invisibility. It has a cloaking device. I'm amazed they got out of this episode alive. Yeah. So, and by that I mean by Anne and the Plantars, because this thing's kind of creepy. But okay. So, after a little bit of fun with the Plantars' disguises, so Polly and Sprig kind of do the tall person skit. But Polly wanting to continue testing out her legs, as she did with Anne's father's face a bit. She decides that she volunteers to be legs while Sprig just beats the top half. Hot Pot kind of has his little disguise. He's got the trench coat, he's got the fedora, and he's got one of those like disguise classes that you see people wear for like parties and stuff. So that's kind of their thing. So yeah. So they go to the supermarket, and again, kind of brand new environment. Sprig is looking around, Polly's looking around, Hot Pop is observing the vegetables, and he finds one that's I don't remember what exactly it was called. I just remember it's kind of like a Thai thing. So it also has apparently the smell of rotten eggs, because Hot Pop opens it up and his face is just like and so Anne kind of laughs it up, and then a customer comes by, sees Hot Pop on the ground, and Anne's like, first time using it, and so the hot customer gets a laugh. I like those little moments where they actually interact with other people, because it's like, it helps show that there is sense of environment, I guess. I mean, I don't really know what the best way to sum it up is, but unfortunately for Anne, the robot shows up, and it's showed up when they're eating noodles. I like that little scene where they're eating noodles, and it's just like, oh, this is amazing. I was like, man, I love these worms, and they're not even fighting back. Pretty funny. But, so yeah, the robot comes into the store. Again, it has the cloaking device on, so no one sees it. That is until he walks by a fridge with magnets on it, and then all of a sudden, like, the cloaking device kind of malfunctions, and all of a sudden you see it. But for Sprig, like, he gets a glimpse of it before it, like, quickly goes back into its cloaked mode, and so tries to warn Anne, but Anne is like, I don't see anything. But then the robot smushes her again. Surprised she's still alive after that. So the robot attacks, and at first the Plantars are pretty much just playing a game of cat and mouse with it, running around the store, trying not to be seen by it, trying not to get caught. But of course, at the same time, it's like, well, you got Anne's parents, get all the people, so you don't want to cause too much of a racket. Not to mention, the robot itself doesn't want to be seen. Like, there's a moment where they're battling down, like, one of the aisles, and all of a sudden a customer comes strolling by, and the robot, because its cloaking device has been damaged, just hides in one of the shelves, and it's like, interesting. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, as Andrias pointed out, he doesn't want Earth to know that they're coming, so makes sense that you kind of want to stay hidden. So, yeah. So, and the Plantars try a few things to take down the robot. The first thing they do is, because they want to fight it, they crank up the music, as I mentioned before, with Anne's mom at the supermarket. So they crank up the music over the intercom to drown out any noises that they could possibly have. pretty creative battle in the grocery store. You know, they're throwing a lot of different products. Hop Pop tries to jump it from one of the top of the shelves. And eventually they head to the freezer where, if you remember the winter episode, frogs and cold don't really mix well. And so Hop Pop, Sprig, and Polly all turn into ice cubes again. I like how this time, like, whereas Snow Day, the kind of like icicles they were frozen into had like kind of like these sharp edges and it was very like, it kind of looked like someone molded it a bit. This one is just straight up ice cubes. They're just straight up in ice cubes, which is hilarious. So it's Anne versus this robot, and at first Anne is like, okay, what do I do? How do I activate my blue powers? And a part of me was like, do you even want to? It's like, I mean, again, it's like, I saw the trailer, so I know exactly what was going to happen. And, you know, kind of goes, Super Say Anne? I really tried that pun, didn't I? Okay, so, at first, you know, that isn't what happens, but then the robot starts going at the Plantars because the Plantars, despite being frozen, still tried to help Anne in a way. And I love the epic anime, like, going in, like they're frozen, but they're like, and then you cut back to Anne and the robot, and you see the icicles just sliding towards it. It's like, But the robot turns around, starts going for the Plantars, and of course, with Anne caring about the Plantars, that's when her calamity powers activate. And all of a sudden, the robot turns around because it's radiating energy, and then Anne like screams like, "You think I'm gonna just stand by and watch as you hurt them? You think again?" She zooms towards it, is literally underneath its feet, just then delivers a massive. Was it a left hook? Yeah, a massive left hook, and knocks the thing to the back of the room, knocks the thing to the back of the freezer, like literally half of its body. It's damaged. It's having trouble computing, and it just runs. It runs, like it just rips open the back wall and just tries to cloak back. It cloaks back up barely, and then just flees. And then, and of course, gets the Plantars out of the freezer, but then she passes out. And, I kind of question that because considering, okay, so in terms of how the power works, obviously, this is only the second time we've seen this done, so I'm just thinking, the first time she activated this power, she thought her friend was dead. So I guess it just depends on the level. Maybe it depends on the level of like emotion. Because in this situation, you know, the robot was going for the Plantars, so she obviously, or cared for them to keep them safe, is what activated her power. And she only she zoomed in, delivered the hook, delivered the punch, and that was pretty much it. When she fought Andrias in the last episode, let's see, she teleported, blew up a crap ton of robots, delivered a good few punches on Andrias, and even caused a little, explosion. So, I guess I'm really wondering how it works. But, obviously we're probably going to get our answers as the season progresses, but right now, just trying to piece stuff together. But, so yeah, Anne passes out, the Plantars kind of help her get back to her feet, and they then, luckily, but fortunately enough, her parents didn't see any of that, so they're still thinking, oh, frog family, but, our daughter is really mature, she's grown, she obviously has nothing to hide. Yeah. Anne kind of realizes that obviously she has a lot on her plate, but she also talks about what it feels like to go into her blue powers, and that she says when she goes in it doesn't feel good. It feels bad, which makes sense considering it's called the Calamity Box. So I imagine Calamity Powers isn't going to be good. But maybe Anne will learn to turn it into good. I mean, I'm trying to think of like the Force. Like right now, she's kind of like in the gray area of the Force, or maybe she's kind of leaning in the Sith every time she goes Super Saiyan. But yeah. So I'm really intrigued to see where we go from there. But also, like, again, going back to her powers, kind of depleting her like energy. She can't even move her arms. Like, she's like, can one of you guys open the door for me? Because my arms literally don't want to move. So it's like, interesting. And then, yeah, so Plantars have a nice little moment, you know, obviously being like, well, we'll help you in. We'll do what we can. Obviously, still got a lot of things to do in order to get back to Amphibia. Get in the car, they drive home, but then we get the last shot, which is up in this cathedral church. I think it's a church. Kind of reminded me of Spider-Man 3 with the Venom sequence. Yes, I did reference that movie. With the robot, it's fixing itself, repairing itself, because it has to complete its mission, no matter the cost, whatever it takes. So, yeah, obviously that's not the last we're going to see of that thing. Who knows how many more episodes that thing is going to keep coming and coming and coming. I'm down for it because, again, it's like Terminator, and I can imagine there's like going to be at least like another Terminator joke. Like, there really wasn't one in this. I mean, I guess you can argue with the whole thing with the robots showing up at the supermarket, surprising the Plantars. Like, that kind of counts, maybe? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you gotta have at least one Terminator quote in there, right? But, yeah. So, and then we kind of end with this nice, with the new outro, which is, dare I say, anime-like? I mean, obviously with Anne, you know, being like a Super Saiyan kind of thing, there's obviously a lot of anime influence in this as well, so not surprising that the intro kind of reflects that the most right now. I mean, yeah, I really said that. Okay, so, yeah, that's pretty much, so, overall, great episode. I mean, for where we left off last episode with the season 2 finale, obviously the season 3 premiere had a lot to unpack, and I think right now this is a pretty solid start of where to unpack things, because, you know, we obviously are following Anne and the Plantars, but we also had the stuff with the robots, so we had Andrias there for a moment. We saw, completely forgot to mention, we get to see what Marcy is like. She's in the glass tube, what is it, chamber? I really keep forgetting what the heck it's called, but basically she's not 100% dead, and Andrias stated that he's got plans for her, so since we know the trailer, we know that it's kind of messed up. We didn't see Sasha or Grime at all, so who knows when we'll get that side of the story. I hope it's quick. I mean, I say quick, but honestly, who knows? I just want, at least, as long as we get it, that's pretty much what we need. But yeah, I mean, solid start. Honestly, I'm really excited to see where we go from here. And that's pretty much all I got. So, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you liked it, leave a like. And you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. Subscribe. You don't have to. I'm just saying. Thank you all for watching. And I will see you in the next one. All right. Whew. Man, this episode is crazy.